guys, this is just another tarot reading. So if you don't know what tarot is, it's like a way of divination, just like Professor Trelawney in Harry Potter. She would do divination with tea leaves and other ways, other means of tapping into our higher purpose, our higher calling, right? This is just as I say in the description boxes of these videos, like this is not like professional like legal or medical advice, right? I'm not in that position. It's just for fun. It's just for fun. Like you don't have to take it seriously if you don't resonate with anything that I say, and if nothing is applicable to you, then who knows? It could just be relevant for someone that you know, right? And that's fine because this is not a personal reading. It's a general reading for the whole audience of the world. I don't want to limit myself or restrict myself to just one target audience. Okay? So that's 1 minute my spiel. So there's gonna be this one's gonna be 3 groups only. Okay, 3 groups, and the first one is it's gonna be 3 just paintings. Okay. This is the first group. Okay. This is the first group. So this is from Fuyu Fujioka. She's my church friend. She does lots of really vintage photos for her Instagram. So this is Fuyu's. Okay, so this is just winter artwork, and then this is from my other friend Christina. This is from my friend Christina Green, and she made this. It says "Choose to be optimistic." It's kind of reversed when you look at it, but it's "Choose to be optimistic." It's a quote by the Dalai Lama, the head of the Buddhism, right? So it's really nice. It's just colorful. Okay, so this is the second group. If you feel called to choose like this, if you think what the message will resonate with you, then you can choose this group. Okay, and if you want, you can watch the whole video, but usually it's good to have just one specific reading unless you want to choose more than one. Okay. Right, and then this one I still have. It's from my piano teacher. My piano teacher's husband. He let me have this, and I feel really sad. But like they were moving one time from their old house, then they had lots of paintings, and then I was helping them, and then she said I could have this in a picture of Beethoven. Also, I have a picture of Beethoven. This is really nice for it's nature. It's a scenery of nature, a scene of nature in like autumn time, right? And there's a river. Like the river in this painting, the river is similar to the path, right? The walking path. It meanders, right? The path of the walking trail is similar in shape to the river or the stream, right? Just something I noticed. Okay, so this is something you can choose if you want to be in the third group. Okay, so don't just choose what you like best, or you can choose what you like best, but just what you feel you most vibe with. Okay, so choose the group. Okay. Okay, so thank you guys. So that's the end of this part. Okay, so you guys, this is the reading. This is gonna be predictions for spring and summer. Okay, for your spring and summer months. Okay, even though the paintings were like winter and fall, the opposites attract, right? So this is opposites attract. So this is for your spring and summer readings for the rest of the springtime and also for summer. Okay. Thanks, you guys. So you're group 1. So you chose the winter artwork. So I'll just choose 2 cards, okay, for this reading. So this is 11. 11 is justice, and it's the crane. And also there's another card, the Ace of Wands. The Ace of Wands. I'm not sure what animal this is. I think it's a wasp or something. Okay, so I'll look. These are the 2, and let me look here. The first one is the Ace of Wands is the Firefly. So we can start with that. The Ace of Wands is the Firefly. Here, okay. So it's in there. It's in a jar, on a pole, hanging from a pole. Okay, so it's there in the middle, in the entrance of a wood, the entrance of the woods. So yeah, so for the Firefly, the light is mating purposes, actually. The light of a firefly is for mating purposes, to attract its mate. And, like the song, like this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, right? I've done that at my church before. We played that song. It's really like a gospel song where, like, you really want to show your true colors and you want to let people know who you really are. And it's okay if you have to, for your own safety, if you need to hide parts of yourselves for other people, for your close ones, your loved ones, your close friends and family. That's something you can do, and that's something you have to decide. And eventually, you might be right if you think your friends and family might judge you if you show them who you really are, or your coworkers might judge you, right? And that's something you'll have to decide for yourself. But as the firefly, the Ace of Wands, and the Wands is the fire energy, right? So you have lots of spark, you have charisma, you have this level of excitement within you, but you have to just, in the next few months, in the springtime and the summertime, just try to be mindful of how, you don't want to start a forest fire, right? You have to think of where, where you're allocating your energy, where you're allocating your resources and your time, because, the fireflies, the light is for the attraction, right? For mating purposes, but it could also be applicable for other purposes, and like where you're directing your attention is necessary in these next few months. So just and as a firefly, you can allow other people to have their light shine too, right? So you don't want to just have your own individual light and your own as bioluminescence, right? The bioluminescence, you don't want to just have that for yourself. You want to have and you don't want to be trapped, right? Like here it's trapped, right? The firefly is trapped. So you want to be able to share your light, but of course not to the point of like starting a forest fire, where like too much charisma, too much energy can be counterproductive, actually. Just like, with leadership, they're known as having charismatic leadership style. That can be something, right? Not just democratic leaders, but in the past, like fascist leaders too had sometimes charisma, and that's something that allowed their propaganda to spread and successfully, to a point where the people had trusted the leaders and in those positions. So that's why in society we have to restore those leadership positions, right? And we have to be different kinds of leaders in society, and we have to make sure that we restore history for what it should be, and because leaders should be respected, but we shouldn't, sometimes people who are poor and like who are easily, pliable, they can be manipulated, and in a way where they lose sight of their own light, and their own light's dim, right? Because the leader is taking all the energy from the poor people, right? The leader is taking their light and all their skills and their talents. Just like in the past when people had to work a lot more. Of course, people still work in factories, before, like, even art and everything, and like, people who worked like smiths, like blacksmiths, and the different kinds of guilds that existed in society. Those guilds you learn in the anime, fairy tale anime, right? All those guilds that people had, and you work in one occupation, and that's like, you don't want people to just take advantage of you, right? For your light, and you want to make friends with people who can do the same kind of talents as you. I think in the next few months, in the springtime and summertime, you want to take advantage of this break time that you have if you're on a break, and you want to try to get to know people who have similar talents as you, so that you can see how you can progress or not retrogress. You want to see how you can maintain your level of skill, and whatever skill that you can do, whether artistic or more like physical kind of skill or technical skill, different kinds of skills, right? Just like, is it an intellectual skill or is it artistic skill? Different kinds of skills. So also it says you want to show your love for others, and you want to you have to just be mindful, like the right setting, right environment to express if you're thinking about a compliment, a specific type of compliment that you want to give to someone, like, oh, you're your project was really, like, your project proposal or your project was just really spot on, and like it made sense to me, like if you're a classmate or if you're a professor or you're someone that's, reviewing someone's work, and you're thinking, or in a work environment, you're saying like, oh, it was really spot on. Like I really vibed with how you incorporated, another person's voice into your own essay, and like how you really got the most essential information from some source, and then how you were able to like explain like any kind of discrimination that someone received, or you're able to explain how someone was able to improve a function in society, or some kind of a method of like developing, like for example, like environment in an environmental way, like how you can reduce pollution, like in a way in your project. Maybe you were able to have a new insight or something. So, and how you are unique. So like I said already, it says in this book by Lisa Robertson and Eugene Smith, you just want to know how to understand the concept of leadership, what the definition, because the definition of leadership has changed throughout history, right? And if you are a leader, then you have to be mindful of that. But at the same time, you want to restore, have restoration for what leaders have been and have done, and what you can do in the future as a leader. And just working with people with similar talents. I think in these next few months, in springtime and summertime, you'll learn from those who have similar positions as you, and you'll have feedback mechanisms that are throughout, not just from lower level to higher level, but from left and right, from those who are similar as you, left and right, and from those in front of you and behind you, just like forming a circle. That's forming like a circle, and you can see like more clearly how levels of hierarchy are always existing and coexisting and interacting with one another, right? Okay, so I think, and just I think that's good for this group. I think you guys. Hi, this is still group 1. So this is also so you also had like this card, the 11, the justice. So we'll do 2 cards. Okay, so this is the justice card. So let me see. Right here, the crane, the justice card. So I already talked about the firefly, the ace of wands, which is part of it. So I'll just talk a little bit about this one. So crane such justice. So yeah, it's like from a legal standpoint, and there's paperwork, and like you want to be resolute and resolve. So for me, in my interpretation, in the springtime and summertime specifically, I think you're realizing like you want your own situation to have justice, but you also want society to have justice too, right? And if you are from a majority demographic, like if you're white in America, right, it can be hard because everyone seems to say white people are so terrible. White people always destroy everything in society, and like so much racism and things like that. And it can be hard because like in school we always learn about how minorities have experienced discrimination, and how like certain things are history is not always pleasant, even in today's society when our living conditions are more pleasant and we have lots of technology and things like that. And of course it's not the same in every society in this world, but like in America, for Americans, we see this and we feel, but then we know of course the statistics, right, of how there's still poverty in America and stuff. So in our occupations we're limited with what we can do always, and that's why we have to build coalitions, and those are like groups that can work together for social justice. And like that's something I really believe in, not just because I studied that, but that's something that I always intuitively knew. And now that I took courses in college, like in university, to like know more about it, and like to be more aware of what's happening around me, instead of just studying just to gain more knowledge, right, but actually being able to apply my knowledge. So I think that's something you're all learning if you're in a humanity, especially if you're studying humanities subjects, and even if just for your general education classes. Those are things to keep in mind. And we know we can't just make excuses, right? We know like we can't do everything in our occupations, but we still have to work with those of other occupations. And whenever we're in a certain field, of study and occupation, so we just need to try to bridge the divide, bridge the gaps between people, and like not, not just think like it's, we can't just think everything is gonna be fine, because even people like in high positions can feel frustrated, and people in low positions can be happy, right? Sometimes you're in a low position, but you still feel happy, and like you're still having having a fulfilling life. And sometimes people in high positions feel a lack of love, right? Or sometimes, so it's always different. We shouldn't judge people no matter where they are on in the hierarchies of life. It's just, the crane and the justice, right? The crane and justice is the crane, right, can fly, like my mom said, and like I know already, is like it can fly right over a high mountain sometimes. Certain types of cranes, right, can fly over high mountains, and like the crane is, really a symbol of Japan in my culture, and I'm part Japanese, so yeah, just like the crane is, it's really slender as a bird, and its feathers, like what it's doing is like, like looking at the sky, kind of like a ballerina, right? Like a ballerina looks in the sky sometimes, different poses they can do. This kind of crane is doing some kind of dance, looks like a dance, so dance move. So yeah, like justice in the justice card, this is in the major arcana, so like it's really trying to I think you're really trying to understand that um like you want, like each interaction that you do, you want to have justice always, and like if you realize you're in the wrong, then it's good to, apologize. And of course people say like apologies are not everything, and it doesn't solve everything, so yeah, there are other ways for justice to happen. And in the immediate aftermath of something that's really really unjust, like the Holocaust, or like wars, just any kind of war in the past, even before the 20th century, just many, massacres, even not like genocides and massacres, just in different places and different countries. So those things, like in the immediate aftermath, those people who suffered and who had family members who died, they feel such sorrow, right? And they can't, so much like stupefaction, like you can't understand, you can't even process what you're going through. But slowly, time will heal your wounds, and you can over, even though if you experience like people who, if you know if you have family members or friends who experienced through like a massacre or genocide, like they show on YouTube, right? There's only a few people, and they who survived from the Holocaust, and many of them are passing away now, and they've survived into their 90s, and sometimes 100 in their hundreds, their 90s and 80s. Many people from the Holocaust. So that shows life is persistent, and life is the persistence of life, right? And it just keeps going. And if something you feel like you've endured, and even though you feel like you're not any different than the people who died, right? But why did you survive, right? Sometimes people feel like guilty, even though they were not the culprits, right? Even though they survived, and other people went through the genocides and the Holocaust, not just in there, but also Cambodia, right? Cambodia had this term, like in genocide. If you look on Wikipedia, they've experienced genocides too. Just different countries, right? So we don't always need to understand just the ones. Of course, even if it is obvious, it's still not. It's still, of course, sad. But there are other cases where we don't hear about. Some people are not always seen, are not always televised in the news, right? There are many stories that we know in our own communities, right? In our own communities and in our own like specific ethnicities, or just different demographics that we have in our churches and our mosques and temples, and just whatever association we're part of it in history too, right? So there's not just the ones that we know obvious are that are more blatant, but there's other cases that we don't always, that's why it's good to hear things that are not always commonly known. But yeah, with the Holocaust, right, there's people who survived, and there's still um they mention them on YouTube too, like they have some, you know, last words they want to say and impart on people. So that's, you know, so with justice, right? Like in the media aftermath, there's justice where they have in a court setting, right? There's some justice there, but then years they've lived so many decades after, and sometimes they feel like it's all, you know, just a dream, or it's all just, it's still, or it was just yesterday, and like to them, even though they've lived decades after the Holocaust, right? And they can always, these nightmares that they have, they relive them, and both in their reality and when they're awake and when they're sleeping, they have these memories still. And you know, of course, we want to respect their lives, and we don't want to, you know, disenfranchise them or discredit, right, the truth. And even though there are sometimes conspiracy theories and misinformation, right, we want to just have these moments where we can reconcile and recover, where we can recover, reconcile, rehabilitate, right? And you know, I believe in rejuvenation. So like with music, things can we can heal, and the music of Chopin and Beethoven and Debussy and so many different composers, right? And we can heal with people. Even of course, music is always being created, right? Even people in popular music, I feel, are just as valuable, right? People who've created music and poems and novels and stories and art, right? Even in present day, can be comparable, but you just have to, you know, it's what, of course, there are judges and people who appraise certain things, and you know, that's good. And we just have to always feel that we can appraise ourselves too in a certain way, and we have to appraise, like appraising is like putting some kind of monetary value, but like we have to think of that in a different way where we put our value, you know, in God, right? Our value comes from God, and our value comes from how we feel and how we treat one another. Right? I think so, guys. So that's justice. That's what justice means to me, and I think in these next few months, in the springtime and summertime, you'll think about this because you'll be having a good time, right? In the springtime, summertime, you'll have lots of good memories, and you'll cherish them. But sometimes it's good to just be mindful of not just what you can do, but what other people are doing. Not just what you feel you have the potential to do, but you're realizing other people are already working hard to make justice the truth and make justice the reality of people around the world. And if you're a little late to the game, right? If you're a little late to the justice game, then that's okay. But you can begin today, and you can do your best to make justice have for everyone's consensus, right? Not just a 2/3 majority or 3/4 majority in the parliament or in the Congress, right? It'll be unanimous, right? It should be unanimous, right? What justice is. Okay, thanks you guys. Hi you guys. So you guys are the group 3. So this is the autumn. You see the painting over there, that's the autumn. Okay, so we're gonna choose 2 cards like the other groups, and we'll get started with your reading first to springtime and summertime. So just, yeah, okay, let's start. So these are 2 cards. So the first one is the 5 of Wands. And the second one is the 6 of Pentacles. So here, one is, I think, a chicken, and one is, I think, maybe a Tasmanian devil. I'm not sure. Let me check. Let's see, what's the 5 of Wands? What's the 5? Right, the 5 of Wands is actually the honey badger. So this one we'll start with the honey badger. There's like a bunch of, you know, wands, but like sticks, right, pointed against it, right? It's cornered. So it's the honey badger. So Lisa Robertson describes the honey badger as like a badass, like a go-getter, someone who can express their thoughts, desires, and just knowing like no one can actually read your mind, right? Even me, I'm a medium, a psychic, but like it doesn't mean like I can read your mind, right? Like you're always, you know, don't feel obligated to act in a certain way just because I say something, right? So, but you determine your fate, right? And even if you change one certain situation or start one conversation, you can really make things different, right? And you can make things different. You can have stable relationships, or you can have more different kind of relationship or friendship, and with your occupation too, everything. Okay, so I think with the Five of Wands, the Wands is I think earth, air, fire. I think earth is the fire energy, right? Because the wand can make magic, so the wand is the fire energy. So I think in the springtime and summertime, you want to be more vocal about what your ideas are, and not just keep everything to yourself. Like, if because sometimes your parents might decide you have some kind of disability, or they might make you go get evaluation, and you need to have input too, and you need to be able to, if you are accepting of your diagnosis or disability, then you should have input too in your care, in your how you receive care and treatment, like what level of like calmness you are at, and like all these things you need to keep in mind. Like, if your parents think like, oh, you misbehaved in a certain way, or if you're just not vocal, like if you don't say anything, that's also can be determined as some kind of disability too, right? If you're not always upfront, or not always certain with what your opinions are. That's why sometimes it can, of course, shyness is something, and introversion is something too. It's just be able to, I think in the next few months, in the springtime and summertime, you want to be a go-getter, which means like you want to prepare for the next school year, prepare for the next work year, and the next fiscal year, or of course this is still fiscal year, but just making sure you think more creatively and more logically also, because there is always competition, right? In society, there's always competition, and you're always being compared to other people, even if people say they don't do that in real life, in conversations, in personal conversations. But companies and your education, they're always putting you against other people, right? You have your class ranking in college and in high school, right? You always have class rankings. Like, I was 14 in my high school, so there's always a class ranking. You have dean's list or something, honor roll, principal's honor roll. There's always competition. Like, even if people don't say it overtly, it's subtle, but it's still there, and it's present, it's existent. And if people think like, oh, you're too shy, or like you won't be able to become a leader, right? Because leaders, they are typically seen, they have to be charismatic, and leaders, and you might eventually, in the next few months or a few years, you might eventually be put in a leadership position, and you have to step up to the plate, and you have to make a home run, right? All these idioms, right, that people say, you have to do these things, because you just need to keep in mind, like, there's always competition, right? And even when you do become the leader or the CEO or something, there's other CEOs in other companies, and you're competing with those people who have similar positions as you, right? Just like when you're in high school, if you're a junior, you're competing with other juniors. If you're a sophomore, you're competing with other sophomores. So that's why you put people who are in the same designation, the same classification. So don't just think like you're gonna go get, like, everything is gonna be okay. And like, even in your job, right, the leaders are always seeing if you're like competent, and if you're not just competent, but if you're a pleasant person, a good person to be around, like you have good communication, you're able to improve. And if sometimes you have maybe a few bad reviews, or a few people that say things that you might need to improve, then you'll work on improving yourself, right? That's why this feedback loops are good, feedback mechanisms are good. And yeah, I think that's good for this one. Okay, so let's move on. So this is the last one. So this is the Six of Pentacles. Okay. Yeah. So six is, it is the chicken. So this is the chicken. So Lisa Robertson describes the chicken as sassy and nurturing, just like, or the chicken is the male, but you could also say if you're a female, right, then you're not a chicken, you're a hen. You're a hen, and that's nurturing. Okay, so you're a she also says like you're charitable with your business. Like with your business, you also don't just increase your profit margins, but you also think what nonprofits does your company. If you're a for-profit company, then you have to think of how you can donate to nonprofits, because those people are able to systematically put their funds for certain causes that they believe in and that they're supporting through events and management teams and events, and they're able to, because like as your business, you're professional in a certain way, like for food or for like manufacturing, like maybe for manufacturing a certain product, then you have those skills. But there's other companies, those nonprofits are able to know how to use the money for even human rights or for nature organizations, or like I said before, or for education, to improve education access, to improve healthcare access and affordability and healthcare access, right? There's different nonprofits that exist, and if you're a for-profit company, then you have to, of course, think of how these other companies can, and it doesn't mean you're any worse than those companies just because you're not able to systematically know how to use the money for, because like you're just trusting those nonprofits to use the money for political organizations too, right? To donate for political organizations or religious organizations. There's many different things you can put your money for, not just for like your business to make your business more profitable, but yeah. So there's lots of things, and then so it's saying be charitable. So Lisa Robertson says. So then also she says make each moment and action and word. Make each moment and action and word count. And like the chicken, right? For the chicken specifically, right? Every egg matters, right? The hen and the chicken, every egg matters. Like if, of course, sometimes certain eggs are not able to be fertile, and some eggs are not able to hatch, even with incubation and with the temperature being good enough. If the temperature is good enough, but sometimes the temperature is not good enough, and sometimes environmental conditions, like if it's too cold outside, right? The chicken's egg, right? The hen's eggs and the chicken's eggs are not gonna, grow up. They're not just gonna, just like when you do an abortion, right? Or if, but of course I said other things, but about that. But like, just, and if you, or just if you do a miscarriage, that's more like a miscarriage, right? It's more like a miscarriage if the egg is not fertile, right, for a chicken, and it could be because it's too cold or it's too hot outside, or the chicken maybe didn't sit on the egg long enough. But always, the hen and the chicken, they're always, taking care of the eggs. You want to make sure every egg matters. That's why, like, the policy in education is like no child left behind, right? You don't want to make a single child left behind. And if they need an alternate route to get to their success, if there's an alternate way, maybe they need to do homeschooling. You recommend that a certain child does homeschooling, then that might be good for them if they already have the motivation and the drive to excel. I mean, eventually and then if you have an alternate route, like you say, maybe you should go to community college instead of straight to a university, right? I feel like lots of teenagers and young adults, they feel pressured to go straight into a university, right? Because they feel like they have to compete, right? Again, with the competition, you have to compete with other people. So if you have to, like me, if you have to take a gap year, or if you have to go to community college instead, or if you have to go to college later in life, maybe when you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s, like if you have to go to college later in life, then you can feel sometimes like, the odds are against you, right? You can feel like the odds are against you, and like you won't be able to, acclimate. You won't be able to acclimate, to the climate of the environment, right? To the climate, the political climate, the cultural climate. You won't be able to acclimate. So I feel like just making sure not just every egg matters, not just every person matters, but every assignment in your courses matter. Like even if an assignment seems like it's pointless, you might think like this one assignment is just so pointless, it's not going to help me. Like I already know how to do all this. Like if that's what you're thinking, then that's very arrogant, right? Very narcissistic. You have to think all your teachers, all your professors, they give you assignments for a reason, right? For a reason. You have to trust the process sometimes, just trust the process. Sometimes just trust the system and the processes. And yeah, if you want to give feedback, you can, but just, accept. Sometimes it's good just to accept things. And, if you become someone who in a high position or a certain position where you can give, where you are able to designate certain things, like if you become a teacher or if you become a worker in society where you are able to be in charge of other people, then that's when you can, like make those decisions. And yeah, and then some of the people who are your subordinates, they might not think, or who are under you, they might not think that everything is good, right? If they might not think your own policies are good. So it's always like, that's the concept of karma, and like the concept of like it takes two to tango, or like it's like don't bite the hand that feeds you, right? You don't want to bite the hand that feeds you, because there are, you have to believe in it. And of course some people say like, oh, like everything I learned is not going to matter in your workplace, and you can think that, but I don't really think that at all. And you can think like, oh, would I, and also like you can think of, oh, that friendship, you can say the same with friendships, right? You can think, oh, that friendship will not help me at all, like you can think like, oh, that person was just so toxic, and like I never learned anything like meaningful from that person. So you can think those things, but then like you need to realize every person, every relationship, every interaction is a learning, something you can learn from. And not just, you don't want to just analyze people, right? You don't want to just think that you're analyzing people or testing people, right? You have to think of, of course we do tests in school and for certifications, but like, if you're not a psychologist, or if you're just someone who's, just a regular person and you're analyzing people, of course for certain papers or on YouTube people do that, but like just in real life, if you're always over analyzing people, and then that can be really hurtful for some people, right? If you always analyze people. So it's good to, reflect and analyze yourself, and you can also analyze other people in your reflections, in your journals, but it's not always good to just vocalize all those things, right? And it just makes people feel like they will never be able to compete, right? No, if like the odds are always against you, then then some people feel there's no reason to even try, to even compete, right, with other people. If there's no incentive, or there's no reason, because if the odds are always against you, then you can't compete, right? So we can't always just assume we can't learn anything from every relationship, from every person, right? We can always learn something, and we shouldn't just think, oh, this is worthless, or like like, oh, I'm never gonna learn anything, like this is not applicable to my degree, like I'm just, that's lots of people I hear all the time. They say like on YouTube and other things, right? On in person, sometimes people think that, oh, this one course is not even relevant, and then like, or this one person, like you say like this person is so irrelevant, so then you can just ghost that person. But it's okay, you always forming new relationships, and you might already have certain tight knit social circles. That's good, but people remember things, and like they remember how you treat them, right? People remember how you treat them, and if you treat people badly, then karma happens, right? And even if you're not Hindu, right, people believe in that, and lots of Christians believe in that too. That's why I don't really believe in being stagnant in one identity, one religious identity, or one, even just any kind of identity, right? You shouldn't always just be stagnant and think this is one local, like this is my own one ethnicity, my one nationality, this is all I am. You need to always look beyond the horizon and always think there's other people. And that's the chicken, right? That's the chicken. The chicken, again, back to the focus. So with this chicken, in the springtime and summertime, these months, the chicken is always making sure each egg matters, and it pecks at the ground, right? The chicken is pecking at the ground, and its eyes are in opposite sides of its head, right? It's like some animals, the eyes are on the opposite side of the head, and with humans, right, it's not like that. Our eyes are not on the opposite sides of our heads. That's why. But there is, either way, regardless, there's symmetry, right? And God always likes to have symmetry. Symmetry is in balance. It's in lots of Greek and Roman art, right? And lots of those old artwork pieces, and lots of in the modern day too. And asymmetry is more in more modern art, right? Modern art has asymmetry, like splashes and things that don't always look harmonious, right? In modern art, sometimes the artwork does not seem harmonious, but in in these animals, right, the chicken, the eyes are on the opposite side of the head, and it has a crown, right? It has a crown, and it has like just like a turkey, it has the guzzle or something, right? It has that thing there, right, in the neck, and well, not a little bit, not as much as a turkey. And then yeah, it has those things and feathers, and yeah, the chicken doesn't know like what will happen to its children, but of course we domesticate it, and it's just with the Six of Pentacles, right, just being charitable, and even though we know there's competition, and yeah, making each moment, each person count, and just nurturing people, right? We want to nurture people and not overanalyze. Okay, so yeah, just being grateful, just having the attitude of gratitude, right? Just knowing like it's not just because something seems like one person you're talking to seems pointless. You have to try to keep pushing and keep giving that person your undivided attention, right? And if you want to file a divorce, then there's a time for that, there's a place for that. But just if you already put so much effort into a relationship and you want it to work, right? You want the relationship to work. My feeling is like just try to put so much effort into it, and just be careful before getting into any relationship always. And once you are in like a fully committed relationship, then it can be hard to want to let go of everything, especially when there's children involved and you don't want to let go of everything that you've already put effort towards. It can seem like giving up, right? Some people, they don't give up their education, but they can give up a relationship easily. And some people, it's the opposite. They keep their education until they get their PhD, right? And then they want to make sure. And sometimes they have to sacrifice relationships, right, for your education. Sometimes they do that, so it can go vice versa. And and sometimes you can have both. You can get the best of both worlds. Sometimes you can get the best of both worlds and you can get everything you want in your life. That's fine if that happens for you, if you can get everything you want in life. And that's great. And just sometimes you feel like there's nothing lacking, but there's always something in everyone's life that can be improved. There's always something lacking in everyone's life. You might not see it and you might think everything is fine and dandy, but there's always something that can be improved in every relationship. And just reaching out to people with open arms and reaching out to people with sincerity and like thoughtfulness, it'll help you right in life. Alright, that's just for this third group. Okay, that's I think everything from this, from my notes. You have these notes. See, these are my notes. It's really nice. I can show now. So like, these are my notes for each. I just wrote. It's actually a lot more words. There's a lot more words in the book. I just wrote a little bit, and then I put highlighters. I love being organized, right? It's so beautiful to be organized. I love organization. Okay. Anyway, bye you guys.